They say a family picnic is supposed to be safe. Laughter, food, children running barefoot through the grass. But what if I told you that mine was planned as my funeral? I woke up that morning humming, frying chicken, stirring greens, telling myself this would be the day we felt whole again. I packed the cooler, kissed my husband on the cheek, and smiled when he smiled back. But his smile wasn't love. It was calculation. Because while I was busy spreading plates and pouring punch, Jerome and his lover were spreading something else. A trap. I didn't know it yet, but every soda he pushed toward me, every accident near the rope game, every moment his eyes tracked my cup instead of my face, it was all part of a plan. And when I caught him slipping away to whisper into the phone, everything's set. Just stick to the plan. My blood froze. That picnic wasn't family. It was betrayal dressed in sunlight. So listen closely. If you think evil always hides in shadows, you've never seen it sit across from you at a red check tablecloth, smiling while it plots your death. Before we get into this, tell me, where are you watching this from? Drop your city below. And if the thought of a husband and his side chick plotting his wife's death at a family picnic stopped you cold the way it did others who heard this story, hit that subscribe button and like the video. Let's rewind to how it all started. My name is Clarissa Morrow, and if you'd met me a year ago, you would have sworn I had it all. A loving husband, a neat little house on the outskirts of Atlanta, and a life that, from the outside, looked peaceful. People love to assume they know what happiness looks like. They see pictures on Facebook, the Sunday smiles at church, the way my husband pulled out my chair at Thanksgiving. They didn't see what happened when the doors closed. At first, Jerome was the kind of man who could make you forget the weight of the world. He laughed loud, worked hard, and loved to cook me breakfast on Saturday mornings. I used to think that kind of steadiness was all a woman needed. He was my rock, or so I thought. But rocks can erode. It started with small things. Nights when he came home late, the smell of alcohol faint on his breath. Excuses about the guys from work or traffic on the highway, the kind of lies a woman notices but doesn't name, because naming them makes them real. One evening, I stayed up waiting, candles burning low. When he finally stumbled in, shirt untucked, eyes glazed, he slurred, "Why you still up? Go to bed, Clarissa. You nag too much." I remember clutching my robe tighter, watching him collapse onto the couch, and I wondered, was this the same man who once drove across state lines just to surprise me with roses? Yet just as quickly as he slipped, Jerome would swing back into sweetness. The next week, he bought me flowers and cooked my favorite gumbo, humming along to old-school R&B like nothing had ever happened. He'd kiss my forehead and tell me, "Baby, you the best thing I ever had. Don't let nobody tell you different." And for a moment, I'd believe him. I wanted to believe him. That's how it went. Good, then bad. Laughter, then silence. A kiss, then a slammed door. Like waves crashing against my spirit, never letting me rest. If you've ever loved someone who was slowly slipping away from you, you know that confusion. That ache of not knowing whether to hold on tighter or let go. Jerome started spending more nights out. Bars, old friends, high school reunions that seemed to last weeks. He'd say, "It ain't nothing, Clarissa. Don't start with your suspicions." But suspicion doesn't need an invitation. It grows all on its own. One night I smelled perfume on his jacket, not mine. Something sharper, too sweet, clinging to his collar like a signature I couldn't erase. I confronted him. His eyes darted, then softened. "Baby, you think I'd ever disrespect you like that? Come on, I love you, you my wife." And again, I wanted to believe, because believing meant I wasn't losing everything. It was my mama who started to see through the fog before I did. Mama had a way of catching lies mid-air, like she could smell them before they formed. One afternoon, while we sipped tea in her living room, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "Clarissa, a man who comes home with perfume on his collar ain't praying with the deacons. Don't be no fool." I sighed. tired of defending him. "Mama, marriage is hard. You always told me love takes work." She leaned forward, voice low. "Yes, but work don't mean suffering. And don't you forget, you worth more than what any man decides to give you. Don't let no woman sneak into your house through the cracks he left open." Her words stung, because deep down, I knew. Still, Jerome had a way of pulling me back. Some nights, we'd sit on the porch, talking about the future. Kids, travel, maybe a bigger house one day. He'd lace his fingers through mine and whisper, "We gon' be all right, baby. You just wait and see." And in those quiet moments, I thought maybe Mama was wrong. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe my marriage was just normal. But normal doesn't feel like holding your breath, waiting for the next shoe to drop. It was at a bar where it truly began, the unraveling, the storm that would lead to the picnic. Jerome bumped into an old classmate, a woman named Vanessa. Sharp smile, sharp words, and a hunger in her eyes that I recognized too late. At first, it was just catching up. Drinks, laughter, swapping old memories. But what starts as catching up often turns into catching feelings. By the time I noticed her number in his phone, saved under a fake name, the damage was done. Jerome was slipping away, and Vanessa wasn't the kind of woman who settled for second place. She wanted more. She wanted me gone. The day after I found Vanessa's number on his phone, I sat at the kitchen table staring at the steam rising from my coffee cup. My heart wanted to scream, to throw the mug at the wall, to shake him awake and demand the truth. But when Jerome shuffled in, yawning, shirtless, scratching his chest like nothing in the world was wrong, I said nothing. He kissed my cheek, poured himself a cup, and sat across from me like a man with no secrets. That's the thing about betrayal. It rarely looks suspicious in the daylight. He asked if I wanted to go out to dinner later, maybe the seafood spot downtown. My chest ached at the normalcy in his voice. I nodded. He smiled. And for a moment, I convinced myself maybe Vanessa was just in my head. Maybe I was losing grip. Maybe marriage really was this messy push and pull. That night, he held my hand at dinner. He fed me shrimp from his plate. He laughed so easily I almost forgot how his eyes had darted when I mentioned Vanessa's name earlier that week. Almost. The next week, he came home drunk again. I smelled the liquor before I heard the key turning in the lock. He stumbled in, tie half undone, shirt wrinkled. His words slurred into each other. I rushed to help him, but he pushed me back with a muttered, "Stop nagging me, Clarissa, always nagging." I froze. My hands shook, not from fear but from anger. The anger of a woman who has bent herself into shapes just to be loved, only to be told she's still too sharp around the edges. The morning after, he brought me roses. 12 red roses wrapped in plastic from the grocery store, but roses nonetheless. He kissed my forehead and told me I was his queen, and like a fool in love, I softened. That was the circle. The cruel circle that kept me tied to him. Mama didn't buy it. When she came over later that week, she took one look at those roses wilting in the vase and scoffed. "Cheap flowers can't fix a rotting tree, baby." I frowned. "Mama, he's trying. Don't be so hard on him." She leaned against the counter, her voice softer this time. "I ain't hard, Clarissa. I just don't like watching my child bleed herself dry watering a man who don't want to grow." Her words cut deeper than I wanted to admit. Later that month, Jerome came home early for once. He brought Chinese takeout and a movie. We curled up on the couch like old times, laughing at jokes we'd both heard 100 times before. His arm rested heavy on my shoulder, and for a fleeting moment I believed, maybe, just maybe, things could go back to the way they were. But then his phone buzzed. He shifted, too quick, slipping it out of my sight. His laugh grew louder, forced. My heart dropped like a stone into water. I didn't ask who it was. I didn't need to. The next day, Mama called me over. She'd made collard greens and cornbread, knowing I couldn't resist. As we ate, she studied me the way only mothers do. eyes narrowing at every pause in my sentences, every forced smile. "You tired?" she said finally. I sighed. "Marriage is just hard work, Mama." "Work, yes, but misery? That ain't marriage, that's slow death." She pushed her plate aside and leaned closer. "Clarissa, let me ask you something. You and Jerome ever talk about your daddy's accounts?" I frowned. "Daddy's accounts? What accounts?" "The Roth IRA, the fixed deposits he set up 28 years ago. You were just a girl, but I remember him saying, 'This will be Clarissa's safety one day.' I never touched it. I thought you and Jerome might have already checked on it." My fork slipped from my fingers. "No, Mama, I didn't even know that existed." She shook her head slowly, sadness lining her face. "Then you've been living blind, baby. Blind while the wolves circle." I sat back, heart racing. It felt like she had just cracked open a door to a room I never knew existed. A room holding answers, maybe even freedom. But that was the same week Jerome started disappearing for entire weekends. He claimed business trips. He claimed overtime. But I knew better. Vanessa's name slipped in conversations, in whispers I wasn't supposed to hear. She wasn't just a fling anymore. She was a storm gathering on the horizon. Still, there were nights Jerome held me, like nothing had changed. Nights he kissed me deep, whispered promises, made me laugh until my stomach hurt. And then the next morning, I'd catch him scrolling on his phone, smiling at something he wouldn't show me. One good night, one bad morning. One sweet word, one cruel silence. The circle spun faster and faster, and I was dizzy from it all. I wanted to tell Mama everything. I wanted to ask her what to do, but pride is a stubborn companion. Instead, I smiled, pretended I was fine, and told her Jerome and I were working things out. Inside, though, I was breaking, and somewhere out there, Vanessa was waiting to turn my breaking into my ending. The day I sat in the lawyer's office, my palms wouldn't stop sweating. Mama had insisted I call him, insisted I find out if my daddy's old words meant anything. I almost didn't. Part of me thought it was a waste of time, another wild goose chase to distract me from a crumbling marriage. But Mama's voice echoed in my head. "You've been living blind, baby, blind while the wolves circle." The lawyer, a slim man with gray hair and wire-rimmed glasses, smiled politely as he pulled out thick folders from his cabinet. "Mrs. Morrow, your father was a very careful man," he said. "He set things up that most people wouldn't have had the foresight to." My heart thudded. What exactly did he set up? The lawyer pushed a statement across the desk. Rows of numbers danced before my eyes, but I couldn't make sense of them. Then he leaned in, voice calm but certain. "Between the Roth IRA, fixed deposits, and compounded growth over nearly 3 decades, your father left you with just over $800 million. I blinked. Surely I heard wrong. 800 million? "Yes," he said matter-of-factly, "and all of it is yours. Has been yours. You simply never claimed it." The room spun. 800 million. While I'd been clipping coupons, begging Jerome to help pay bills, worrying if we could keep the lights on, I'd been sitting on a fortune. I pressed my hand to my chest, trying to steady my breathing. Why didn't anyone tell me? The lawyer folded his hands. "Your mother didn't know the extent. Your father kept it quiet until you were old enough. The accounts matured, but you never came for them. Until now." I left the office trembling, clutching papers that felt heavier than bricks. I was rich, but somehow, instead of joy, I felt fear. That night, Jerome came home early, grinning like a boy. He wrapped his arms around me, kissed my cheek, and pulled me into the living room. "Baby, guess what? I booked us a weekend getaway. Just you and me." I stared at him, stunned. The timing felt too perfect, too strange. He hadn't looked at me with that much affection in months. "Really?" I whispered. "Yeah," he said, eyes shining. "We need this, you and me. Fresh start." For a moment, my heart dared to hope. Maybe he was choosing me. Maybe things were turning around. But even as I packed my bag, I noticed him texting, his thumb moving too fast, his smile too sly. When I asked who it was, he laughed. "Just Mark from work." The lie slid off his tongue too easily. At the hotel, he poured me wine, held my hand, talked about dreams and futures. I wanted to believe every word. I wanted to drown in the illusion. But when he went to the bathroom, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. Vanessa's name flashed on the screen. "Can't wait till she gone." I froze. My blood went cold. I locked myself in the bathroom, staring at my reflection. My husband, the man I had vowed to love, was plotting with another woman. I should have left right then, but love makes fools out of the strongest women. The next morning, he kissed me like nothing had happened. Meanwhile, Vanessa was growing bolder. She wasn't content being the other woman anymore. She wanted it all: his love, his future, his money. And Jerome, weak and restless, let her whisper poison into his ear. One night at her apartment, Vanessa leaned close, her perfume thick and sweet, her lips brushing his ear. "Why settle for scraps, Jerome? Why let Clarissa walk around holding you back when we could have it all?" He frowned, guilt flickering across his face. "You don't understand. She's my wife." "She's your chain," Vanessa snapped. "You think she'll just hand you freedom? No, she'll cling and she'll bleed you dry. But if she was out of the way—" Jerome flinched. "Vanessa, don't." But she smiled, sly and dangerous. "You ever think about what it'd be like if she wasn't around? Really think about it?" Silence stretched between them, and that silence was louder than any confession. I didn't know the details of their conversations back then, but I felt it in my bones, the distance, the lies, the way his touch felt both familiar and foreign. I carried the weight of knowing something terrible was blooming just out of sight. And yet, the next week, Jerome took me to dinner again. He pulled out my chair, toasted to new beginnings, and told me I was his everything. My chest ached from the whiplash of it all. One good night, one bad morning, the circle, always the circle. But in my bag, I carried the papers from the lawyer's office, proof that for once I wasn't powerless, proof that my father had seen me, had protected me long before I knew I needed it. That knowledge lit something in me, a quiet strength, because while Jerome and Vanessa plotted in shadows, I was slowly learning I wasn't the woman they thought I was. I wasn't weak, I wasn't blind, and I wasn't broke. The envelope sat hidden in my dresser drawer, buried under scarves and sweaters. Every night I'd pull it out, unfold the papers, and stare at the numbers. 800 million. It looked unreal, like something from a dream I didn't want to wake up from. Sometimes I laughed to myself in disbelief. Other times I cried. All those years of scraping by, of pinching pennies, of begging Jerome to be careful with money. And I'd been rich all along. But wealth doesn't fix loneliness. Money doesn't wrap its arms around you at night. And a fortune can't heal a heart that's been cracked open by betrayal. The question gnawed at me. Should I tell Jerome? I imagined his face if I did. The sudden warmth, the sudden "I love yous." But would it be love or greed? Would he hold me tighter because of me, or because of what I was worth? I kept my silence. Jerome was changing. More absences, more lies. Some nights he wouldn't even bother with excuses. He'd come home late, collapse into bed smelling of cologne I didn't wear, and turn his back to me without a word. Then, like clockwork, he'd switch. One Saturday morning, he cooked breakfast, singing along to old Luther Vandross records. He set the plate in front of me with a grin. "Baby, you know I love you, right?" I nodded, smiling weakly. Inside, I wondered if he even remembered the perfume on his collar last week. The circle. Always the circle. Vanessa, meanwhile, wasn't satisfied being the secret anymore. One night in her apartment, she paced the room while Jerome sat slumped on the couch. "You keep stringing me along, Jerome. Telling me you gon' leave her, but you never do. You think I'm some side dish you can nibble on forever?" He rubbed his face. "It's not that simple. "It is that simple," she snapped. "You walk away. You choose me." "And what about everything else?" His voice rose. "The house? The life?" She leaned closer, her perfume cloying, her voice soft and venomous. "You ever think about how easy it could be? One little accident, one slip, and she's gone. Nobody has to know." Jerome's hands shook. He whispered, "Stop talking like that." But he didn't leave. At home, I felt the shift in the air. Jerome was colder, sharper with his words, yet he still played the part when he wanted to. He'd take me to dinner, kiss my forehead, talk about vacations. One night we were sitting on the porch. Fireflies flickered in the dark. He took my hand. "Baby, we should do a picnic, with the family. It's been a while since we all got together." My heart warmed. I missed those simple joys, the laughter of cousins and nieces, the smell of barbecue in the summer air. "That sounds nice," I said. He squeezed my hand. "Yeah, let's make it happen." For the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe he really did want to fix things. Maybe he still loved me. But deep down, in some hidden place inside me, I wondered if the idea had really been his, or Vanessa's. The following week, Mama called. "Clarissa, you sound brighter today. What's going on?" I smiled faintly. "Jerome suggested we do a picnic with the family. I think it might help." Mama's silence stretched. "A picnic, huh?" "Yes. Why do you sound like that?" She sighed. "Just be careful, baby." A man who's halfway out the door don't usually turn around unless he got a reason. And sometimes that reason ain't love. Her words lodged in my chest like a thorn. That night, I dreamed of drowning. I was in a lake, struggling, thrashing, while laughter echoed on the shore. Jerome stood there with Vanessa, their faces blurred, their voices sharp. I screamed for help, but they just watched. I woke up gasping, my sheets damp with sweat. When Jerome stirred beside me, I turned and studied his face in the half-dark. The man I once trusted with my whole heart. The man who now felt like a stranger in my bed. And in that moment, I knew. Something was coming. Something I wasn't ready for. I used to tell myself the worst thing in a marriage was silence. The kind that stretched across the dinner table, thick enough to choke on. But I learned that worse than silence is laughter that doesn't include you. Jerome's laughter had changed. It wasn't the full-bodied laugh that used to fill our home. It was quieter now, sly, tucked behind closed doors and late-night phone calls. One evening I heard it again, drifting from the garage where he sat in his car long after pulling into the driveway. I cracked the door, heart pounding. He was on the phone, whispering and chuckling like a teenager sneaking around. "You crazy," he said softly. "Nah, she don't suspect a thing. Trust me, I got it under control." My breath caught. I stepped back before he could see me, pressing a hand over my mouth. The circle had tightened. The lies weren't just hidden anymore. They were being nurtured like a garden, and I was the weed they wanted to pluck out. When he finally came inside, his face was smooth as glass. He kissed me on the cheek, dropped his keys in the bowl, and asked what was for dinner. I smiled. My lips trembled, but I smiled, because sometimes pretending is the only weapon you have. The next day, Mama called me. She always seemed to know when my spirit was heavy. "Baby, you eating?" she asked. "I'm fine, Mama." She didn't believe me. "Fine don't sound like that. Fine don't sound like somebody carrying a storm on her back." I wanted to tell her everything, about the late nights, the phone calls, the perfume, about Vanessa, but I swallowed it down. My pride was still stronger than my pain. Instead, I asked her about the papers. "They're safe," I said quietly. "In the dresser drawer. I look at them sometimes, just to remind myself I ain't as powerless as I feel." Mama's voice softened. "Good. Don't you forget that, Clarissa. That's your shield. Your daddy left that for you so you'd never be at nobody's mercy, not even your husband's." Her words steadied me. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of control. Jerome, on the other hand, was unraveling. Vanessa had started showing up in places she didn't belong. Once I spotted her car parked outside the grocery store when I went in for milk. She sat behind the wheel, sunglasses on, a smirk playing on her lips as if daring me to come closer. Another time, I swear I saw her at the mall, trailing just far enough behind me to make me question my sanity. I told Jerome. He laughed it off. "Vanessa? At the mall? Come on, Clarissa. You seeing ghosts?" But his eyes flickered just for a moment, and in that flicker, I saw the truth. He knew. He knew she was haunting me. And he didn't care. Still, there were nights Jerome pulled me close, his body warm against mine, whispering promises into my hair. "It's you, baby. Always you." And I wanted so badly to believe, because belief felt easier than facing the monster in the room. But then the next morning, he'd leave early, dressed sharper than usual, his cologne thick in the air. No explanation, no kiss goodbye, just the slam of the door and the growl of the engine fading down the street. One good night, one bad morning. The circle spun, faster and faster, dragging me deeper into its whirlpool. One evening, after another of Jerome's late arrivals, I sat at the kitchen table long after midnight, staring at the clock. My hands itched to call the lawyer again, to move the money, to lock it so deep no one could touch it. I didn't know why, Kev. Jerome didn't even know it existed, but something in my bones told me danger was circling, and I couldn't afford to be careless. When Jerome finally stumbled in, I asked him where he'd been. He laughed, bitter. "Always with the questions, Clarissa. You don't trust me, do you?" I stared at him. Should I? The silence that followed was sharper than any slap. He didn't answer. He just turned and walked into the bedroom, leaving me alone with my question echoing in the dark. That night, I dreamed again. Not of drowning this time, but of running. My feet pounded the earth, lungs burning, while shadows chased me through a forest. I could hear Vanessa's voice, cold and amused. "Run all you want, Clarissa. You can't outrun what's coming." I woke up with tears on my cheeks, and when I turned, Jerome's side of the bed was empty. The morning after I woke to an empty bed, Jerome walked through the door just after sunrise. He looked fresh, like he'd showered somewhere else, his shirt neatly pressed, the smell of another woman's perfume trailing faint behind him. I sat at the table, a cup of coffee untouched in front of me. "Where you been?" I asked quietly. He froze for half a second, then shrugged. "Work. Had to cover a late shift." I stared at him. The lie sat heavy between us, thick as smoke. "Work don't spray you down in perfume," I whispered. His eyes hardened. "So now you smelling me like a bloodhound? That what we on?" I should have yelled, should have thrown my mug at the wall. Instead, I just sat there, staring at the man I used to know, wondering when he became a stranger. Later that week, Vanessa's shadow stretched longer. I found her number again on his phone, this time saved under Brother Mike. I laughed bitterly. Jerome didn't even have a brother named Mike. When I confronted him, he grinned. "You're really losing it, Clarissa. Are you checking my phone now? That's pitiful." Pitiful. The word sliced me. But that night, he kissed my shoulder while I washed dishes, humming like nothing had ever happened. His arm slid around my waist, and for a split second, I melted. That was the cruelty of it all. He knew exactly how to keep me dangling on the line. Vanessa wasn't content with being hidden anymore. I knew it the night Jerome didn't come home at all. At first, I paced the floor. By midnight, I called his phone, straight to voicemail. By dawn, I sat on the couch, arms folded tight, waiting. When the lock clicked at 8 a.m., I braced myself. Jerome walked in whistling, a takeout bag in his hand. "Morning, baby, I brought biscuits." I didn't move. He set the bag down, his smile faltering when he saw my face. "What? You think I don't see you?" My voice shook. "You think I don't know where you been?" He sighed, running a hand over his head. "Clarissa, don't start." "Don't start?" I laughed, bitter and broken. "You leave all night, come home smelling like sin, and you tell me don't start?" His eyes flickered, just for a second. Then he leaned forward, his voice low and sharp. "Maybe if you were enough, I wouldn't have to." The words knocked the breath from me. I turned away before he could see the tears. That evening, I went to Mama's. She took one look at me and pulled me into her arms. I finally broke, sobbing into her shoulder. "You don't love me no more, Mama," I whispered. "I don't know what to do." She stroked my hair, her voice steady. "You survive, baby. That's what you do. You remember who you are. You remember what's yours. That money, that's your safety. And don't you dare let a man who already put his hands on another woman think he can snatch your future too." Her words sank deep. I realized then that Jerome's betrayal wasn't just about love. It was about survival. And Vanessa, she wasn't satisfied with pieces. She wanted my whole life. That weekend, Jerome suggested the picnic again. "It'll be fun," he said. "Bring the family together." I stared at him, my chest heavy. "Why now?" He smiled too easily. "Why not now?" And I wondered if Mama was right, if this picnic wasn't about love at all, but something darker. I didn't answer. I just nodded, but inside I felt the shift. The circle was breaking, and whatever came next would change everything. Now let me pause here and ask you something. Have you ever loved somebody so much that even when they spit on your trust, you still hoped they'd turn back to you? Have you ever watched your gut scream danger while your heart whispered maybe? That's the storm Clarissa was in. And if you think she should have walked away already, then tell me this. How many of y'all reading this are still holding on to somebody who's been gone a long time? Don't just watch in silence. Hit that subscribe button if you feel this story, and if you won't, then drop it in the comments. Tell us why. Tell us what about this pain don't hit home for you. Because trust me, plenty of folks out here living the same circle every day. The morning of the picnic, the air smelled like summer. Warm grass, charcoal smoke, and the faint sweetness of peach cobbler cooling on the counter. I had woken up early, humming as I packed containers of food, determined to make this day feel like family again. "Need help with that?" Jerome asked, strolling into the kitchen. He looked handsome, crisp polo shirt, smile easy. You'd never guess the storm brewing behind his eyes. I studied him for a moment. He looked every bit the devoted husband, and I wanted so badly to believe it was true. "Just grab the cooler," I said softly. He kissed my cheek, grabbed the cooler, and whistled as he walked out the door. For a moment, I almost let myself forget the perfume, the phone calls, the nights he didn't come home. Almost. The park was alive with voices by noon. Children chased each other across the grass. Cousins hugged tight after months apart. Uncles set up dominoes on picnic tables. The air was full of laughter and smoke from the grill. I breathed it in, letting the sounds of family soothe me. This was what I wanted. A reminder that life could still be whole. Mama sat in her folding chair under a tree, fanning herself with a church program. "This is nice, baby," she said, smiling. "Just like old times." I smiled back, my chest loosening. "Yeah, Mama, just like old times." But when I glanced across the park, my stomach tightened. Vanessa was there, not near us, not with family, but far enough to watch. She leaned against her car at the edge of the lot, sunglasses hiding her eyes, lips curled in that sharp little smile I hated. I whispered under my breath, "Why is she here?" Jerome appeared at my side, sliding his arm around me. "What's wrong?" he asked, voice low. I gestured subtly toward the parking lot. "She's here." He followed my gaze, then chuckled lightly. "Baby, you seeing things? Ain't nobody there." But when I looked back, the car was gone. The food spread across the tables like a feast. Fried chicken, baked beans, collard greens, cornbread, sweet potato pie. I busied myself serving plates, hugging nieces, laughing with cousins. For a while, I let myself feel normal again. Jerome played his part well. He helped with the grill, cracked jokes, even tossed a football with the kids. To anyone watching, we were the perfect couple hosting the perfect picnic. But every time our eyes met, I felt the distance. And then little things began to unsettle me. The cooler Jerome brought? I hadn't packed the drinks inside. Some of the sodas were unfamiliar. brands I hadn't bought. He brushed it off, said he grabbed extras from the store. The way he hovered near me, watching when I poured myself a cup of punch, but looking away when Mama drank hers. The way his smile faltered when I offered food to him first. Small things. Too small to name aloud. But my gut twisted tighter with each one. As the sun dipped lower, the laughter grew louder. Music blasted from someone's speaker, and the younger cousins started dancing. I stood back smiling, my heart aching with the sweetness of it all. Then from the corner of my eye I caught it. Jerome, slipping away from the group, phone pressed to his ear. I moved closer, pretending to refill the punch. His voice was low, sharp. "Yeah, she's here. Everything's set. Just stick to the plan." The cup trembled in my hand. I almost dropped it. He turned suddenly, catching me watching. His smile snapped back into place. "Everything all right, baby?" I forced a nod, my throat dry. But inside, I knew. This picnic wasn't about family. It wasn't about healing. It was about me. The sun dipped low, painting the park in shades of orange and gold. Children shrieked with laughter as they darted between the trees. The domino game at the picnic table grew loud with smack talk, and music hummed through a Bluetooth speaker. From a distance, it looked like joy itself had spread a blanket across the grass. But joy has a way of hiding shadows. I was refilling plates when I noticed the first odd thing. The chicken wings I fried that morning, golden, crispy, just the way Mama taught me, were still on the platter, untouched. Instead, Jerome kept nudging people toward the wings he had picked up from the store. "They seasoned better," he insisted with a grin, piling them onto plates. "Trust me, y'all gonna love these." I smiled politely, but something itched in my gut. Those weren't my wings. Later, as I reached for one of Jerome's store-bought pieces, his hand shot out. "Baby, try the greens first. You know they're your favorite." It was quick, casual, brushed off with a laugh, but his eyes lingered too long on my plate. Mama called me over to sit with her under the shade. She pressed a napkin into my hand. "You look pale, Clarissa. You all right?" I nodded, forcing a smile. "Just tired from all the work." She studied me, eyes narrowing. Or maybe tired from carrying things you ain't speaking out loud." I swallowed hard, glancing across the field where Jerome was laughing with cousins, looking like the life of the party. "Does he look like a man with secrets to you?" I whispered. Mama didn't even blink. "The devil don't walk in with horns, baby. He comes smiling, holding a plate of chicken." Her words made me shiver. The second strange thing happened near the drinks. The cooler Jerome brought from the house sat half empty now, condensation pooling around it. I bent down to grab a bottle of water, but Mama's hand caught my wrist. "Not that one," she said softly. I frowned. "Why not?" Her eyes never left Jerome. "Just not that one." I hesitated, then picked from the other cooler instead. The water was cool and crisp on my tongue, but the unease in my belly grew heavier. Then came the accident. Cousins had set up a game of tug-of-war. The rope stretched across a shallow ditch, laughter filling the air as two teams dug in their heels. Jerome called me over, grinning wide. "Come on, baby, join this side." I shook my head. "I'm not trying to fall in that dirt." "Oh, come on, it'll be fun." The kids begged me until I gave in, slipping my sandals off and grabbing the rope. My team yanked hard, laughter bubbling in my chest despite myself. But halfway through the game, my foot slipped. Or maybe it wasn't my foot. Maybe it was the rope slicker than it should have been. I toppled forward, heart in my throat. The ditch wasn't deep, but at the bottom lay jagged rocks. I braced myself for impact. Strong hands caught me. It was my cousin Derek, pulling me back up with a laugh. "Got you, cuz. Thought you was about to break your neck over a rope game." I forced a laugh, but inside my blood ran cold. Because when I glanced up, Jerome's smile wasn't relief. It was something darker. I tried to shake it off. I told myself I was imagining things, letting suspicion paint every moment black. But the unease wouldn't leave. Even when we all sat down for dessert, passing peach cobbler and banana pudding, I noticed Jerome's eyes on me again, watching, waiting. I pushed my plate away untouched. "Not hungry?" Mama asked. "Lost my appetite," I murmured. As dusk fell, families started packing up. Laughter softened. Children grew sleepy. Folding chairs scraped against the grass. Jerome came up behind me, sliding his arm around my waist. "Good day, huh?" "Just what we needed." His smile was easy, his voice warm. To anyone watching, he looked like a husband who adored his wife. But when his hand squeezed my hip, I felt no love in it. I forced myself to smile. "Yeah, just what we needed." Inside, my heart was hammering, because I knew then, this picnic wasn't a gift. It was a warning. The night after the picnic, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Jerome slept soundly beside me, his chest rising and falling in steady rhythm, like a man with no troubles in the world. But I couldn't sleep. Every moment from that day replayed in my head. The untouched chicken, the cooler, the rope, the smile he wore when I almost fell. It was too much to dismiss as coincidence. I turned onto my side, watching him in the dim glow of the streetlight outside. The face of the man I had loved for years, the man I had defended to Mama, the man I had prayed for. But lying there, I realized something chilling. This wasn't the man I married anymore, and maybe, just maybe, he didn't want me alive. The next morning, Jerome acted like nothing was wrong. He made coffee, kissed my forehead, asked about my plans for the day. I played along, answering with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Inside, though, I was searching. I started with the laundry, his jeans, his shirts, his jacket pockets. I'd never been the type of woman to snoop, but desperation makes you bold. That's when I found it. A folded receipt from a hardware store, crumpled in the pocket of his khakis. Rope, gloves, cleaning solution. My hands shook as I stared at it. Why would my husband need rope and cleaning solution when we had no projects at home? I stuffed it back quickly when I heard his footsteps. He walked into the room, grinning. "You need anything from the store later?" I shook my head, hiding my trembling hands in the laundry basket. "No," I whispered. "I've got everything I need." Later that week, I drove Mama to her doctor's appointment. While she waited inside, I sat in the car, staring at the papers still tucked in my bag. The financial statements. $800 million. I realized then how much sense it all made. Maybe Jerome didn't know yet. But Vanessa? I wouldn't put it past her. A woman like that didn't just want his love. She wanted security, power, and I was in the way. That evening, Jerome's phone buzzed while he showered. I never touched his phone before, but this time my hand moved on its own. The message flashed across the screen. "Vanessa, we can't keep waiting." The picnic was close, but she slipped. Next time, no mistakes. My knees nearly buckled. I dropped the phone back on the nightstand and stumbled into the bathroom doorway. Through the steam, I saw his shadow behind the curtain, humming like nothing was wrong. How does a man plan your death and still sing in the shower? That night, I dreamed again, not of drowning or running, but of fire. I stood in the middle of the park, flames rising around me, voices shouting, faces turning away. In the dream, I screamed Jerome's name. He stood at the edge, holding Vanessa's hand, smiling. I woke with my heart hammering, sheets damp with sweat. This time, I didn't roll over. I didn't study his face in the dark. I slid out of bed, walked quietly to the dresser, and pulled out the envelope of papers. I held them in my hands, breathing deep. This was my lifeline, my proof that even if Jerome and Vanessa thought they could erase me, I wasn't helpless. I folded the papers carefully and tucked them into Mama's Bible, the one she kept by her nightstand. If anyone could guard my secret, it was her. But even as I tried to find courage, fear gnawed at me, because the question was no longer if Jerome wanted me gone. It was how soon. The days after the picnic felt like living on the edge of a cliff, waiting for the ground to crumble beneath me. Jerome moved through the house like nothing had changed, humming, cracking jokes, pouring my coffee in the morning. If I didn't know better, I'd think he was the same man I married. but the memory of that text from Vanessa replayed in my mind every time he smiled at me. The picnic was close, but she slipped. Next time, no mistakes. Those words burned in my chest. One evening, I decided to follow him. He left the house around 8, muttering something about meeting a friend from work. I waited 10 minutes, then grabbed my keys and slid behind the wheel of Mama's old Buick. The night was damp, streets slick from an afternoon storm. I kept my headlights low, trailing him from a distance. He turned off the highway, weaving through back streets until he pulled up to a small apartment complex on the south side. My heart sank when I saw her. Vanessa, standing outside in a short dress. Her smile, sharp as glass. She leaned into him the moment he stepped out of the car, her hands sliding across his chest like she owned him. I gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I wanted to storm out, scream, claw her face. But instead, I sat in the shadows, trembling, as they disappeared inside together. When I finally drove away, tears blurred the road ahead. The next morning, Jerome was all tenderness. He fried bacon, scrambled eggs, and poured me orange juice. He set the plate in front of me with a grin. "Thought I'd surprise you," he said. I stared at the food, my stomach churning. Was this kindness or guilt? He sat down across from me, his eyes soft. "You know I love you, right? Ain't nothing in this world that could change that." I forced a smile. I know. But I didn't know. Not anymore. Because his words sounded rehearsed, and the memory of Vanessa's text echoed too loud in my mind. Later that week, while he was in the shower again, I searched his car. My hands shook as I pulled open the glove compartment. Receipts, old gum wrappers, insurance papers. Then tucked under the seat, a small brown paper bag. Inside was a vial, clear liquid, no label. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. Before I could think, I shoved it back and closed the door just as the water shut off in the house. My chest pounded as I slipped back inside, my face arranged in calm. Jerome came out, towel slung around his shoulders. He kissed my cheek, water dripping down his neck. "What are you doing out there?" I smiled. "Just checking the mail." That night, Mama called. Her voice was calm, but I heard the worry under it. "Clarissa, I've been praying. Something ain't sitting right with me about that man. Are you sure you are safe in that house?" I swallowed. "I'm fine, Mama." "No, you're not. I know you. Your voice sounds like when you were a little girl, hiding after you broke a vase. You are carrying fear, baby. Fear doesn't belong in a marriage." I closed my eyes, tears slipping down. "Mama, what if he really is trying to hurt me?" There was silence on the line. Then her voice, steady and strong. "Then you fight, Clarissa. You fight with everything you got. And you remember, you got more power than he ever dreamed." Her words gave me strength, but strength wasn't enough to stop the dread curling in my stomach. 2 nights later, it almost happened. Jerome poured me a glass of wine at dinner, smiling as he slid it across the table. "To us," he said. I lifted the glass, hesitating. His eyes were too intent, too focused on me. Something in me rebelled. I set it back down untouched. He frowned. "What's wrong? Don't you trust me?" I met his gaze steadily. "Do you trust me?" His jaw tightened. For a moment the mask slipped, and I saw the anger flash in his eyes. Then he laughed, brushing it off. "You something else, Clarissa." But I knew. If I had drunk that glass, I might not have lived to see the morning. That night, I lay awake listening to his breathing. My chest ached with a truth I could no longer deny. This man, my husband, the one I had defended, loved, forgiven 1,000 times, wanted me gone. And Vanessa? She was pulling the strings. The picnic was just the beginning. They wouldn't stop until I was out of the way. Now let me ask you something straight. If you were sitting at that table, with a glass of wine your husband poured, and every nerve in your body screamed, "Don't drink it," would you still lift it to your lips? Don't just lurk. Hit subscribe if you're following Clarissa's fight. And if you won't, then tell me in the comments why not. Because staying silent while danger sits at your table, that silence is deadly. The night after the wine glass sat untouched on the table, I drove straight to Mama's house. I didn't even call first. I just packed a bag and slipped out while Jerome was in the shower, the sound of water masking my footsteps. Mama was sitting on her porch when I pulled up, rocking slowly in her chair. She didn't look surprised. She just tilted her head, eyes soft, and said, "Took you long enough?" I collapsed into her arms, sobbing. All the fear I'd been holding, all the nights of pretending, poured out like a flood. "He's trying to kill me, Mama," I whispered, voice breaking. "I know it. I saw the messages. I found the stuff in his car. And Vanessa? She's everywhere. She's waiting." Mama's hand smoothed my hair like she used to when I was a child. "Shh, baby. I hear you. I believe you." Her words were an anchor. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I wasn't drowning alone. The next morning, Mama made breakfast. Grits, eggs, sausage. She placed a plate in front of me and sat across the table. "You got 2 choices, Clarissa," she said firmly. "You can keep pretending like nothing's happening, or you can start fighting back. Not with fists, not with screaming, but with wisdom, with strategy. You hear me?" I nodded slowly, tears stinging my eyes. "But how, Mama? He's already planning things I can't even see." "You got something he don't," she said. "You got foresight. You see him. You see her. They don't know you holding cards they can't touch. 800 million reasons you gon' survive this. That's power, baby. That's protection." Her words sank deep into me. For weeks I'd felt like prey. But maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as powerless as I thought. Later that day, we sat on the porch together, watching neighbors walk their dogs, children ride bikes up and down the street. The world looked so normal. Mama rocked in her chair, humming an old gospel tune. "You know what keeps you alive in times like these?" she asked suddenly. "What?" "Hope. Even when it feels foolish, even when the world tells you it's gone. Hope is the one thing that keeps your feet moving when fear tries to pin you down." I let her words wash over me. For the first time in a long time, I felt the tiniest flicker of peace. But peace doesn't last when the devil's knocking at your door. That evening, Jerome called. His voice was light, almost cheerful. "Where you at, baby? I came home and the house empty." I gripped the phone tighter. "I'm at Mama's." A pause. "Oh, everything okay?" I swallowed hard. "Just needed some time." He chuckled softly. "You and that mama of yours, always in each other's pockets." Something in his tone made my skin crawl. "I'll be home soon," I lied. "Good," he said. "I miss you." The words should have comforted me. Instead, they sounded like a warning. That night, I sat in Mama's living room with her Bible on my lap. The financial papers were still tucked between its pages. I traced the worn leather cover, my father's handwriting faint in the margins. "Mama," I whispered, "what if he finds out about the money?" Her eyes sharpened. "Then you'll know for sure what you already suspect. That man don't love you. He loves what you can give him. But until then, you keep it close. That's your safety net. Don't you let him touch it." I nodded, heart heavy but stronger somehow, because for the first time, I felt like maybe I could fight. But fight or not, Jerome wasn't letting go. 2 days later, he showed up at Mama's house unannounced. He stood on the porch, smiling, carrying flowers. "Baby," he said sweetly, "I just wanted to see you. Can we talk?" Mama stepped forward before I could answer. Her voice was sharp. "Talk about what, Jerome?" "The perfume on your shirt or the lies on your lips?" He forced a laugh. "With all due respect, ma'am, this between me and my wife." Mama's chin lifted. "Everything that touch her touch me too." For a moment, I thought he'd snap, but then his smile slid back in place. "Baby," he said softly, eyes on me. "I miss you. Come home. Let's fix this." My throat tightened. I almost wavered. Almost. But then I saw Vanessa's car parked a block away, half hidden under a tree. Waiting. Watching. And I knew. This wasn't about fixing anything. This was about finishing what they started at the picnic. The flowers Jerome brought sat in a vase on Mama's porch, wilting after 2 days in the heat. Mama refused to bring them inside. "Ain't no use putting poison in water," she said, rocking in her chair, eyes sharp as ever. I laughed softly, though my chest ached. "You always know what to say." She gave me that sideways look, the one that meant she was about to cut straight through me. "You don't laugh enough, baby. A woman in a storm got to find her smile somewhere, or else the rain swallow her whole." I leaned against the porch rail, sipping sweet tea. "It feels like every time I breathe, he's standing there, waiting. I don't even know who he is anymore." Mama's voice dropped low. "That's because he ain't yours no more. He gave himself away. You can't hold on to a man who don't want to be kept." Her words stung, but they were true. Later that night, we cooked together. Collard greens, cornbread, fried catfish. The kitchen smelled like home, like the life I thought I'd lost. As we stirred pots, Mama chuckled. "You remember when you was little, and you told me you was going to marry a man who looked like Denzel, cooked like your daddy, and prayed like the pastor?" I laughed, wiping my eyes. "I was aiming high, Mama." "Mm-hmm. And instead you picked Jerome, who looked good but came with a heart like half-baked cornbread, pretty on the outside, raw on the inside." We laughed together until tears rolled down our cheeks. For a moment I felt human again, but peace never lasted long. That weekend, while I was leaving the grocery store, I saw her, Vanessa, standing by her car, leaning casual against the hood, as though she'd been waiting for me. Her smile was sweet, poisonous. "Well, look who it is," she drawled. "Clarissa, shopping like nothing's wrong." I froze, my grocery bags heavy in my arms. "What do you want?" She stepped closer, heels clicking against the pavement. "What I've always wanted. Jerome, and you out of the picture." Her boldness stole my breath. She leaned in, her perfume sharp, her whisper colder than ice. "You should have taken that fall at the picnic, honey. Would have been quicker than what's coming next." My blood turned to fire. I stepped back, voice shaking. "You're not going to win." She tilted her head, smirking. "Sweetheart, I already have." And with that, she slid into her car and drove off, leaving me trembling in the parking lot. I told Mama that night, pacing the kitchen floor. She said it plain, Mama. She's not even hiding it anymore. What kind of woman looks you in the eye and tells you she's coming for your life? Mama stirred her tea, her voice calm. The kind of woman who already dead inside. Don't let her pull you down with her. "But she's not alone," I whispered. "She's got Jerome." Mama's gaze sharpened. "Then you play smarter. You don't meet fire with fire. You meet it with water. You hear me?" I sank into a chair, burying my face in my hands. "What if I can't beat them?" Mama reached across the table, her hand strong on mine. "Baby, don't you see? You already stronger than them. You still got your soul. They gave theirs away." The next morning, I woke to find Mama sitting with her Bible open, lips moving in prayer. She looked up and smiled. "You ready?" "For what?" I asked. "To stop surviving and start living," she said simply. "Fear won't feed you. Fear won't keep you warm at night. You got to build something out of this pain, something for yourself, for the life ahead of you." Her words lit a fire in me. For weeks, I'd been frozen. Now I felt the stirrings of movement. I pulled the envelope of financial papers from the Bible and placed them on the table. "This," I whispered, "isn't just money. It's my future. And I'm not letting Jerome or Vanessa touch it." Mama nodded, pride softening her features. "That's my girl." But the storm was still coming. That night, Jerome called again. His voice wasn't soft this time. It was sharp, impatient. "How long you planning to hide out at your mama's, Clarissa?" I gripped the phone tighter. "I'm not hiding." He laughed bitterly. "You think you can just walk away? You're my wife." Am I? I asked quietly. Silence stretched between us. Then his voice dropped, low and dangerous. You keep pushing me, and you gon' regret it. The line went dead. I sat on the porch with Mama after, the crickets humming in the night. My chest ached with fear, but beneath it burned something stronger. Resolve. I whispered to the darkness, more to myself than to her. If they want a war, they gon' get one. But I won't be the one buried at the end of it. Mama's hand found mine, her grip firm. That's right, baby. That's right. The night came thick and heavy, the kind of night where even the moon seemed to hide. I was still at Mama's, but my nerves wouldn't settle. Every creak of the house, every bark of a dog outside made me jump. Mama sat across from me, sipping tea like nothing was wrong, but her eyes, sharp and steady, kept flicking toward the window. Storm's getting close, she muttered. I can feel it. I wrapped my arms around myself. He won't stop, Mama. He's not going to let me go easy. Her voice was calm, firm. Then don't you go easy either. Before I could answer, the phone rang. The shrill sound made me flinch. Mama reached for it, but I stopped her, my heart hammering. I'll get it. I lifted the receiver, and his voice slid down the line like oil. Clarissa! I swallowed hard. What do you want, Jerome? He chuckled low, like we were sharing a private joke. Why you acting like this? I told you I love you. All I want is for us to be together. You mean all you want is for me gone? I snapped, voice shaking. Silence. Then coldly, if that's how you feel, maybe you should come home. Let's settle this face to face. I froze, every nerve screaming that it was a trap. Mama shook her head, whispering, Don't you dare. But part of me wanted to. Part of me wanted to walk into that house and demand the truth. Later that night, I dreamed again. This time, I was back at the picnic. Everyone laughing, music blasting, children playing. But when I looked down at my plate, it wasn't food. It was dirt. And when I looked up, Jerome was standing across the table, shovel in his hand, Vanessa at his side. They smiled as they started to dig. I woke up screaming. Mama rushed in, holding me tight. It's all right, baby. It's just a dream. But deep down, I knew it wasn't just a dream. It was a warning. The next evening, I made the mistake of leaving Mama's house alone. Just a quick errand, I told myself. Just 20 minutes to clear my head. But as I drove down the empty road, headlights flared in my rearview mirror. Too close, too fast. My stomach dropped. The car behind me swerved, closing the distance, its bumper nearly kissing mine. My hands clenched the wheel as I pressed the gas, heart slamming in my chest. Jesus, please, I whispered. The other car sped up, swerving again, trying to force me off the road. I caught a glimpse of the driver through the windshield. Vanessa. Her eyes locked on mine, wild, determined. I jerked the wheel, tires screeching as I barely avoided the ditch. My car fishtailed, my body slammed against the seatbelt. I fought the steering wheel with everything in me. Then, headlights appeared ahead. Another car. Vanessa swerved at the last second, whipping past me and disappearing into the night. I pulled over, shaking so bad I could barely breathe. Tears blurred my vision as I laid my forehead against the wheel. She wasn't just threatening anymore, she was trying. And next time I might not be so lucky. When I stumbled back into Mama's house, she took one look at me and knew. What happened? She tried to run me off the road, I choked out. She really tried this time, Mama. Mama's face hardened. Then it's time to stop waiting. Her words scared me more than anything, because I realized I had been waiting. Waiting for Jerome to confess, waiting for Vanessa to back off, waiting for someone to save me. But nobody was coming. It was me or them, and I wasn't ready to die. The next day, Jerome showed up again. This time, he didn't come with flowers. He came with fire in his eyes. He stood on Mama's porch like he owned it, shoulders squared, jaw tight. Clarissa, we need to talk. I stayed inside, peeking through the curtain, my heart racing. Mama met him at the door, her voice sharp as a blade. "You got 5 seconds to get off my porch, Jerome." "I'm here for my wife," he snapped. "She ain't yours to claim no more," Mama fired back. I wanted to stay hidden, but something in me snapped. I opened the door and stepped outside. My voice was steady, though my hands shook. "What do you want from me, Jerome?" His eyes softened for a split second, like the man I used to know was buried somewhere deep. Then the mask slid back in place. "I want you to come home. Stop all this foolishness. You think living with your mama gon' solve anything?" I stared at him, searching for truth, but all I saw was calculation. "You don't want me home. You want me gone." His lips pressed tight, and silence said more than words ever could. That night, Mama insisted I stay close. "You don't go nowhere alone," she warned, "not even to the store." I nodded, but the air in the house was heavy. I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing the roar of Vanessa's engine, seeing her eyes in the rearview mirror. At 2 a.m., I got up to get water. That's when I noticed it. The back door, slightly ajar. My chest tightened. I stepped closer, every nerve screaming. Then I heard it, the creak of a floorboard in the kitchen. Someone was inside. "Mama," I whispered, shaking her awake. Her eyes flew open, sharp even in the dark. She didn't panic. She just reached for her cane, pressed a finger to her lips, and nodded. We crept toward the kitchen, my pulse pounding in my ears. The shadows shifted, and then I saw him. Jerome, standing there bold as day, like he belonged. "What are you doing here?" I demanded, voice trembling. He smiled, cold and slow. "I told you, Clarissa. You belong with me. You can't hide forever." Mama raised her cane. "Get out my house before I forget my prayers." But Jerome just stepped closer, his voice low and dangerous. "You think your mama can protect you? You think hiding gon' save you?" I shook my head, my body trembling but my voice fierce. "You don't scare me anymore, Jerome, not after everything you and her tried." At the mention of Vanessa, his eyes flickered. Guilt? Anger? I couldn't tell. But then he laughed. "You really don't get it, do you? She ain't the problem, you are." Before I could respond, a noise outside made us all freeze. Tires crunching on gravel. Headlights swept across the window. Vanessa. Jerome's smile widened. "Right on time." Panic clawed up my throat. This wasn't just a visit. This was it. Mama stepped in front of me, her voice like thunder. "Over my dead body." "Don't tempt me," Jerome muttered. The door burst open, and there she was, Vanessa, holding something in her hand. Not a gun, a bottle. Glass glinting in the moonlight, liquid sloshing inside. "End of the line, sweetheart," she sneered. "Should have stayed in your grave at that picnic." Everything in me screamed to run, but Mama didn't move. She stood tall, her cane gripped like a weapon. "You come one step closer, girl, and you'll regret it." Vanessa laughed. "Old woman, sit down. This don't concern you." But Mama didn't budge. "Everything that touched my child concerns me." The room vibrated with tension. My heart hammered so hard I thought it would break through my chest. Jerome stepped closer, his voice a whisper in my ear. "Just drink it, Clarissa. Make it easy. No mess, no fight." Tears burned my eyes, but I lifted my chin. "You'll have to kill me standing." Then chaos erupted. Mama swung her cane, knocking the bottle clean out of Vanessa's hand. It shattered against the floor, the sharp smell of chemicals filling the air. Vanessa screamed, lunging at Mama, but I threw myself between them, shoving her back with everything in me. Jerome grabbed my arm, yanking hard. "Stop fighting me!" I struggled, heart pounding, vision blurring. But in that moment, something broke free inside me. I wasn't prey anymore. I drove my knee into his stomach hard. He doubled over, cursing. Mama shouted, "Run, baby!" I didn't think. I bolted out the front door into the night, the sound of Vanessa's scream chasing me. I stumbled across the yard, my breath ragged, tears streaming. Behind me, Jerome's voice bellowed my name. I didn't look back. I ran like my life depended on it. Because it did. The night swallowed me as I ran, my bare feet slapping the damp earth, my lungs burned, my heart a drum in my chest. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to get away from that house, from Jerome's voice bellowing my name, from Vanessa's laughter slicing through the dark. Branches scratched at my arms, gravel bit into my skin, but I didn't stop until my legs gave out. I collapsed against an old oak tree at the edge of the road, gasping for air, tears streaming hot and bitter down my cheeks. For a long time I just sat there, trembling. The silence pressed heavy, broken only by the pounding of my heart. I thought of Mama, her cane striking that bottle, her body planted in front of mine, refusing to move, her voice steady as stone, over my dead body. The image cut deep. She was willing to lay her life down for me, and here I was, cowering in the dark. By the time dawn crept across the sky, I dragged myself back toward the house. My body ached, but the fear had hardened into something else, resolve. When I opened the door, Mama was sitting at the table, Bible open, her hands steady on the pages. "You ran," she said softly, not looking up. Shame burned in my chest. "I did." She lifted her eyes then, sharp as ever. "But you came back." I sank into a chair, my voice breaking. "Mama, I can't keep living like this. Every day I wonder if it's my last. He's not going to stop. She's not going to stop. What am I supposed to do?" Her hand slid across the table, covering mine. "You stop waiting for permission to live, baby. You make your choice." My throat tightened. "And if I make the wrong one?" She leaned closer, her eyes fierce. "Then you stand tall in it. Wrong or right, you stand. Because cowering in corners never saved nobody." Her words stayed with me all day. I moved through the house like a ghost, touching the walls, the pictures, the memories of a life I used to think was safe. I remembered when Jerome and I first met, the way he smiled at me like I was the only woman in the room, the way he held my hand so tight, I believed he'd never let go. But now that smile was a weapon, that hand a shackle. And Vanessa, destructive, venomous Vanessa, she had slithered into the cracks of our marriage and poisoned every corner. They had taken everything from me, almost. Because there was still one thing they didn't know, one card left in my hand. $800 million, my father's gift, my future, my salvation. I pressed the envelope of financial statements to my chest and whispered, "You won't take this from me. You won't take me." That evening, I sat on the porch with Mama. The air was heavy, cicadas buzzing in the trees. "Mama," I said quietly, "what if I told you I don't just have enough to survive? I have enough to win." Her eyes flicked to mine, searching. "Win how?" I pulled the envelope from my pocket, laying it in her lap. Her breath caught as she flipped through the pages. "Lord have mercy," she whispered. "All this time?" I nodded, tears stinging. "Papa set it up before he died. A Roth IRA, fixed deposits, 28 years of growth. I didn't know until you reminded me." She shook her head slowly, eyes shining. "Baby, this ain't just money. This is freedom. This is protection. This is power." Her hand gripped mine tight. "Now you listen to me. You don't run no more. You don't beg no more. You don't cower no more. You stand, because you're not the one who's trapped. They are." That night, Jerome called again. His voice was colder than ever. "You think you can hide behind your mama forever?" I swallowed, my hand steady on the receiver. "I don't need to hide." A pause, then his laugh, low, mocking. "You really think you can beat me?" I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tight. "I don't have to beat you, Jerome. You already lost." His voice sharpened, angry now. "What you mean by that?" But I didn't answer. I hung up, my heart pounding, my body trembling, not with fear this time, but with strength. For the first time, I felt it. I wasn't running anymore. "Now let me turn this on you. If you had the chance to hold the one card that could flip the whole game, would you play it? Or would you keep hiding? If you'd play it, hit subscribe right now. And if you wouldn't, tell us in the comments why you'd let your fear write your ending. The morning sun spilled through Mama's curtains, soft and golden, but my body felt wired, restless. I couldn't sit still. Something inside me had shifted like a knot finally pulled loose. For weeks I'd been running from Jerome and Vanessa, waiting for the next strike. But now, with those papers in my hand, with Mama's words echoing in my head, I realized I didn't have to wait anymore. I had something they didn't. Control. "Baby," Mama said, watching me pace the kitchen, "what's stirring in your head?" I set the envelope on the table, tapping it with my finger. They think I'm powerless. They think I'm just some broken wife they can erase. But I've got something they don't know about, something they could never take from me unless I let them. Mama's eyes narrowed, sharp and knowing. "So what you gon' do?" I took a breath, my voice steady. "I'm not hiding anymore. I'm going to let them know. They'll never win." That afternoon I called Jerome. My hands didn't shake this time. "Meet me," I said flatly. "Alone." He paused, then chuckled. "Finally got some sense, huh? Where?" "The park," I said, "where we had the picnic." A beat of silence, then his voice dropped low. "You sure that's what you want?" "It's what I need." When I hung up, Mama gripped my hand. "You know he won't come alone." "I know," I whispered. "That's why I'm ready." The park was quieter now than it had been on picnic day. The grass was worn where children had played, the picnic tables empty, the air thick with late summer heat. I sat at the same table where I'd once passed plates of chicken and pie, my hands folded, the envelope of papers tucked in my purse beside me. Jerome arrived first, strolling across the grass like he owned the place. He wore that same easy smile, but his eyes were restless, darting. "Clarissa," he said smoothly, sliding into the seat across from me. "You look good." I kept my face still. "Save it." He leaned closer, voice soft. "Come home. Let's put this behind us. I don't want to fight anymore." "Then why did Vanessa try to run me off the road and you trying to kill me?" I shot back. His smile faltered. For a second, his mask cracked. I pulled the envelope from my purse and set it on the table. "I'm not imagining this." He frowned. "What's that?" "My freedom," I said firmly. "My future. Something you'll never touch." Before he could respond, a car door slammed in the distance. I didn't have to turn to know who it was. Vanessa's heels clicked across the pavement as she approached. Her laugh sharp and cruel. "Well, isn't this cute?" she sneered. "A little heart-to-heart in the park. How romantic." Jerome's jaw tightened. "I told you to wait." She smirked. "And miss the fun? Not a chance." Her eyes flicked to the envelope, narrowing. "What's that?" "None of your business," I snapped. Her lips curved. "Everything of yours is my business, sweetheart, including your life." The tension thickened, the three of us locked in a triangle of silence. Jerome reached for the envelope, but I snatched it back, clutching it tight. "You'll never get this," I said, my voice steady. "Not the money, not me, not anything." Jerome's eyes darkened. "So that's what this is about. You've been hiding something." Vanessa laughed, cold and sharp. 800 million reasons, baby. No wonder you've been acting bold." I froze. How did she know? She leaned in, her smile poisonous. "You really thought you could hide forever? Jerome told me you were too stupid to handle money, but I told him, no, she's sly. She's got something up her sleeve." Jerome's head snapped toward her. "What are you talking about?" Vanessa's eyes glittered. "Don't play dumb. She's sitting on a fortune." His face twisted, shock and greed colliding in his eyes. "Is it true?" My chest tightened. The secret was out. Mama's voice echoed in my head. "Don't let him touch it." I stood slowly, clutching the envelope. My legs shook, but my voice came out clear. "Yes, it's true. And it's mine. Not yours. Not hers. Mine." Jerome's face hardened, fury boiling beneath the surface. Vanessa's smile grew sharper, her eyes gleaming with triumph. And in that moment, I realized something. They weren't partners. They were vultures circling the same prize. If I didn't play this right, they'd tear me apart. The air in the park felt heavy, like the whole world was holding its breath. I gripped the envelope tighter, my palms damp with sweat. Across from me, Jerome's eyes burned, fury and confusion warring inside him. Beside him, Vanessa leaned against the picnic table, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. "Well," she purred, "looks like your little wife has been holding out on you, Jerome. $800 million. Can you believe that?" Jerome turned his glare on me. "Is it true?" I forced myself to lift my chin. "Yes, it's true. And it's mine." His jaw tightened, muscles jumping. "All these years I've been killing myself, working overtime, worrying about bills, and you've been sitting on a gold mine?" "You never asked," I shot back. My voice trembled, but I didn't stop. "And even if you did, it wouldn't matter. It's not for you, not for Vanessa, not for anyone but me." For a moment, silence stretched between us. Then Vanessa laughed, tilting her head at him. "See? I told you she was smarter than you thought. But now the secret's out, Jerome. So what you gonna do? Walk away empty-handed?" Her tone was mocking, taunting, and I saw it land. Jerome's chest heaved, his fists clenched. Their alliance cracked right there. "Don't talk to me like I'm your fool," he snapped at Vanessa. She smirked, unfazed. "But you are, baby. You've been my fool since high school." His face twisted. "You think you can just waltz in and take everything? That money's mine too. She's my wife." "No," Vanessa sneered, stepping closer, her eyes glittering. "She's your problem, and I'm the one with solutions." I watched them, horror and awe mingling in my chest. For the first time, I realized they weren't partners. They were predators circling the same prey, and now they were starting to circle each other. "Jerome?" I said quietly, my voice cutting through their argument. "Look at you. You're fighting for money you never earned with a woman who doesn't love you. Is this who you wanted to be?" He spun on me, rage twisting his features. "Shut up!" Vanessa chuckled, her voice syrupy sweet. "Oh, let her talk. I like seeing you sweat." His hand shot out, gripping my wrist so hard I gasped. "You think you can talk to me like that? After everything I'd done for you?" Pain shot up my arm, but I forced myself to meet his eyes. "Everything you did was for you, not for me. And I won't let you take one more thing from me." Mama's voice echoed in my head. "Stand tall, baby, even if your leg's shaking." I ripped my wrist free, the envelope clutched to my chest. "You'll never get this money. You'll never break me. Not you, not her." For a second, he just stared at me, stunned. Then Vanessa burst out laughing. "Lord Jerome," she said, shaking her head. "She's stronger than you. Can't you see? You'll never beat her, not without me." Her words stoked his fury. He lunged toward me, his hand reaching. And that's when Vanessa moved. She stepped between us, her smile gone, her voice sharp. "Back off, Jerome. You're not the only one who knows how to play this game." The tension snapped. He shoved her back. She shoved him harder. Words flew, ugly, venomous words. "You were supposed to help me," he shouted. "You were supposed to finish the job," she screamed back. And I realized with a cold clarity, I didn't need to destroy them. They were destroying each other. I backed away slowly, my breath shallow, my hands trembling around the envelope. Every nerve screamed at me to run, but I forced myself to stay, to witness. Jerome grabbed her arm. "You don't get a dime without me." Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "Watch me." Then she spat the words that cut deeper than any knife. "I never wanted you. I just wanted what she had, and now I'll take it, with or without you." His face twisted, shattered. And in that moment, I saw the man I'd once loved finally disappear, replaced by a hollow shh. The fight exploded. Jerome shoved her. Vanessa clawed back. The picnic table rattled as they crashed against it, screaming, cursing. I clutched the envelope tighter, stepping back until my heel hit the dirt. For the first time in weeks, I felt no fear, just clarity. Let them tear each other apart, because I was done being their prey. The park echoed with shouting, the sound of Jerome and Vanessa locked in a storm of their own making. Their voices were ragged, their hands clawing, shoving, dragging each other down into the mud. I stood at the edge, my chest rising and falling, the envelope pressed to my chest. For so long, I'd been tangled in their trap, caught between his lies and her venom. But now, watching them, I felt something new. Freedom. I turned and walked away. Behind me, their chaos raged on. But it wasn't mine anymore. Back at Mama's house, the night air was cool, the crickets humming steady. She was on the porch, rocking in her chair, waiting. When I stepped into the light, her eyes scanned me from head to toe. "Well?" she asked. I sank into the chair beside her, tears stinging my eyes. "It's done, Mama. They've turned on each other." I walked away. She nodded slowly, her face calm, almost proud. "That's how the devil works, baby. He eats his own in the end. You just had to last long enough to see it." I exhaled, the weight on my chest finally lifting. "I'm free." Mama reached over, her hand warm on mine. "You've been free. You just had to claim it." The next days passed in a strange quiet. Jerome didn't call. Vanessa didn't show up. Their storm had consumed them both, and I no longer felt its pull. For the first time in months, I woke up without fear choking me. I cooked breakfast. I laughed with Mama. I walked through the neighborhood without looking over my shoulder. But more than that, I began to dream again. Not about Jerome, not about the life I thought we'd build, but about me, about what I could do with the gift my father left me. $800 million, a number so big it scared me, but also one that opened doors. I thought about the women in my community, women stuck in bad marriages, women afraid to leave because they had no money, no safety net. Women like me. What if I used this fortune to give them a way out, a safe place to land? The thought lit a spark inside me. One evening, I sat on the porch with Mama again. "I think I know what I want to do," I told her. She raised an eyebrow. "Oh?" "I want to start something. A foundation, a home, a place for women like me. A place where they can find their strength again." Mama's smile spread slow and wide. "Now that," she said, "sounds like healing. Not just for you, but for everybody." Her words settled into me like balm. For the first time in a long time, I felt hope, real and solid. Weeks later, I filed the papers. I signed my name on documents that would make my vision real. The Clarissa Hope Foundation was born, and with every step, I felt lighter. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was living. And then came the part I never saw coming. At one of the first community meetings I hosted, while women gathered to share stories and plans, I met him. Not flashy, not smooth, just kind. His name was Daniel. He listened more than he spoke. He looked at me like I wasn't broken, but whole. He didn't ask about Jerome or Vanessa or the storm I'd just walked through. He just asked about me, my dreams, my vision, my future. For the first time in years, I let myself smile without fear. And somewhere deep inside, I felt it. Love. Not the kind that chained me, but the kind that set me free. One evening, I sat on the porch with Mama again, the sun setting in streaks of pink and gold. She looked at me with that sharp gaze of hers. "You got that look," she said. "What look?" I asked, laughing. "The look of a woman who thought she lost everything, but ended up finding more than she ever dreamed." I leaned back, breathing in the evening air. "I think I finally understand, Mama. Love at last isn't about finding a man. It's about finding yourself first. And once you do, the rest comes easy." She nodded, her eyes glistening. "That's it, baby. That's it." So here I am. I was the woman who almost died at a family picnic, the woman whose husband and his lover plotted to erase her. But I was also the woman who walked away, who found her strength, who claimed her future. And in the end, I didn't just survive, I rose. And if you sat here, heart pounding, waiting to see if Clarissa would fold or fight, if you stayed through the picnic, the poison, the chase, the porch showdown, and the triumph, you're ready for what's coming next. There are 2 videos on the screen with very interesting storylines that I highly recommend you watch next. Go check them out. Click the video on your screen now to watch them.